Man, I was holding on to I had the old Twitter still. Like it didn't upgrade to like a new look, and it just finally happened to me, and I just
Oh, you got it now, huh?
whenever that happens to me, I fucking hate it, whether it's email or whatever. Ugh.
Will 2020 ever stop delivering the hits?
All right, let me read tweet. All right, we got to believe episode 50, and even 50 here, as we still are baseball-less and probably will be for the foreseeable future. Where are you at, Clem? Give me your prediction.
So, just to give you an idea of how erratic this entire thing is and volatile, we were going to record yesterday when we usually do. I had to get some dental surgery done, nothing major. And I was so pissed because I was so ready to stomp on you and stunt and be like, I told you, Kev, because it went from we had the owners with their 50-game bullshit, the players with their 114, which was already out there. I was so ready just to fucking walk like Vince McMahon coming out. And now we're getting 48-game seasons. And again, every time I come back to this, I go, these fuckers running Major League Baseball are so goddamn stupid. We were upset at them for mismanaging these negotiations and dragging their feet before there was a goddamn war, exploding across the country right now. Right. So I honestly don't even care. I don't even care if baseball comes back. I'm going to give you a hot take, and I don't want to go into there's a very nuanced conversation that has to be done by people better than us. I don't even know if we deserve sports back right now. We shouldn't have sports. We almost need no distractions to focus on the important shit in this country, is start. And that's the reason I do think between that and the coronavirus stuff, there's nothing else on. It's making people focus on the important things in life right now. So without going too deep into that, cancel the fucking season. I don't even care anymore.
Let's go. Let's fucking cancel the pre-console. I love it. You're right. I was on KFC Radio saying, it was kind of the perfect storm to get people, obviously a heinous crime on video. Just like I just feel like society just keeps building up, and this was kind of like the last one to set it off. But you're right, with nothing to discuss, nothing to be fake outraged about. You got to be outraged about the real shit. Shout out to boy Frank the Tank, who said he's just so sick of this. He needs sports back because society needs pressure valves. That was Tank's line. So no, man, it's gonna be pressure packed at least for another month or whatever until the NBA kicks up, because baseball ain't coming back. It's not happening. And why? And at this point, really. I mean, a 48-game season. I get. I know that I'm different from a lot of the Barstool people and the Barstool fans. I mean, there are people who need sports to live, and I am I can pop on Netflix. I can binge a show. I'm okay with it primarily because I fucking hate watch all my teams, and I keep for me. The best thing that happens is no baseball, because that means the rest of my baseball life will probably be better, because I do believe that is the death knell for the Wilpons. So You're asking me, do I want baseball back? Yes. Do I want 48 games at the risk of now not getting rid of my owners? No, I do not. So I might be in the minority, but I don't really give a
shit. I honestly, so the 114 by the players, that proposal, then the owners had 50, and 82, 81 was, I always thought 81, again, you give me at least half a season, it kind of fits perfectly. I think there's a lot of symbolism in that. It's half a season, but it's still a full season, and it is what it is, and we're making chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? I was all for that kind of, I thought that's where we were headed. Yeah. But at this point, and they're doing the negotiations in public. Everything's going on Twitter. You know who the reporters who are sucking the owners' dicks. You know who the reporters who are talking to the players. You can kind of just see right through it. It's very transparent to anyone who follows the media. But the fact that now we're going the other way, and I mean, I don't know when the deadline was for all this stuff, but we're in June 5th now. The NBA has their proposal set. they're starting July 31st. And Major League Baseball doesn't have that much time to get all this shit going because they have to do a full league with all the players. NBA has half the league. It's going in a little bubble and all that shit. It's only 22 teams. It's crazy to me that they're going to do this, but I'm sure the people in 94 were like, there's no way they're going to strike. They're not going to cancel the World Series. Ken Griffey Jr. is going to break who the fuck's record was it back then? Roger Maris. Tony Gwynn's going to hit 400. There's no fucking – and then it was just canceled. So
Yeah.
I got to shout out this one too. Jason Waterfalls had this proposal because our boy Pete Blackburn, did you see his proposal when this was all going down? He goes, let's just have one game season. One game season, first team to hit a home run, first team to score a run wins the World Series. I was in because I said, throw Polar Bear Pete lead off. That fucker's going hard.
Fucking fences, man.
Yeah. I mean, we know the squirrel could, he's going to swing at the first pitch, but he doesn't have the, power or clutch gene of the polar bear. So this guy, Jason Waterfall, said 30-team Royal Rumble, right? You don't know the order. It's just like the Royal Rumble. So it's like first two teams come out, run onto the field. One team's pitching, one team's hitting. Once that game's over, lights go out. Next team appears on the field. And you just think that would be the most like the Mets would obviously get the one spot. We'd probably be out by after DeGrom, or we'd probably lose DeGrom start because of the bullpen. But the team that gets the 30 would probably be the Yankees. No one the Yankees run.
How about this? Jacob DeGrom, best pitcher in baseball, right? Mm-hmm. So whichever player from whichever team is the first to hit a home run off of Jacob DeGrom, they get to go to the World Series and face the Mets because the Mets have Jacob DeGrom. So we just get penciled in, and it's a battle to see who gets to face us for the World Series, and then maybe we can be World Series champions. I'm
always down for that. Whenever someone gets a bye to the finals, like Daniel LaRusso and Karate Kid 3, I'm always down for that kind of shit. So sign me the fuck up. Anytime we can get Karate Kid 3 linked into some kind of baseball season, I'm in. Again, maybe it'll be different. We have a good team. We have a very good team. We have a fun team. This would be an awesome season. It was going to be an awesome season, even without fucking Loki on the mound. But at this point, it's at some point, I can't get all upset about. Maybe it's because the NBA I know is coming back, so I at least know we're gonna have something. I feel like until football is canceled, which no one's talking about. What is it, Alabama and Oklahoma State? All those players are getting COVID now, so it's yeah. So I feel like we're a little pie in the sky here with some of this shit. It's almost like baseball's grounding us with money issues before we even get to the COVID issues that could pop up at any given moment.
I feel like I haven't even been looking into all of it because I just feel like logically there's just not everyone who's these guys will come to an agreement. It's what? What are you talking about? Baseball players and baseball owners? Oh yeah, cooler heads will prevail. I said it's like fucking the war in the Middle East. Oh yeah, those guys will just figure it out. They'll just come to an agreement. No, they fucking won't. No shot. Especially if we're now going backwards. If there was some hope, if the initial 114 versus 50 was met with some positivity and some reasonable cooler heads, fine. But it's only getting worse. And I think what happens with service time and contract years and all that shit? Is this just doesn't count?
If the season gets wiped out altogether, I don't know. Kyle, do you know what happens if there's no season in terms of does Mookie Betts become a free agent without playing a game for the Dodgers?
I think that they did say they were going to honor it. Originally, it wasn't going to be the case. They were going to carry it over. Can you imagine? Because they trade for that, so they just lose it after that.
They're gonna say it counts or doesn't count.
They're going to say it counts.
Woo! Holy moly! And that
was back when they agreed to the original agreement for prorated contracts and shit. So if there's no season, they might revisit again.
Yeah, because I'm thinking does this count as a year off of Robbie Cano, or are we pressing pause?
That was what I was thinking too. That's how goddamn.
You know what I was going to say? Chris Archer and Noah have the surgery. They're out. Do they get paid?
Right. And then so he has what? Noah's up after next year.
Mm-hmm.
But is it are we tacking on another year because he missed this year with injury, but not really because there was no year. I don't know. We got to figure out what's going on there because there's definitely some implications with the Mets and their old guard with their new guard. But But
the bottom line is Robbie Cano, one less year of Robbie Cano is a win in our book. Let's tread on the like off the tires too, Phil. Like he's a year older, but like there's no way anything could explode. I mean, I guess Noah told us that you can get hurt and be out for the season even during a quarantine or a missed season. So there goes Yo. The whole Yo experiment is gone. It's all over, unfortunately, if the season is canceled.
Holy shit. Yeah, honestly though, I feel like that's all. As much as I was thinking, what if we get a good year from Yo? What if we get a good year from Noah? Like, I think the more and more that we get towards this being the Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Michael Conforto, like regime, I think it's just like out with the old, in with the new, and get these guys who have some confidence, some swagger, who weren't there for some of the disastrous shit that happened. I mean, Pete Alonso, just slap a C on his chest already, right? I mean, just fucking give it to him. His comments on Instagram the other day were fucking great. Like, it's not political. It's not left or right. He's just speaking common sense about Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter and just saying what you need to do to be like a good person because he's the king of New York, and that's what kings of New York do. They speak up. They say the right shit. So I'm okay with – here's the thing. All of this is predicated to me upon the Wilpons, and I do feel like they can't take that loss and still survive. And also, according to Forbes, the Citi Field debt that the Mets always fucking carry has been downgraded to below investment grade. So the S&P ranks all these bonds and all these investments with AAA down to I think C, and the ratings went from double B plus to triple B, which is
triple B, baby. It ain't good. Triple B is bad in this scenario. It ain't big baller brand. Triple B is bad, right? Mr. Accountant, you have to tell me.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Let me see if like the numbers here. I mean, these are all just jumbled up numbers. I'm trying to see if there's just like here's how much debt they're in. But
the New York Post did something on it, and I think it was like it was a 200 something like 222 million or whatever. And basically, long story short, is the way that this works is it's not good for the Wilpons. And anything that's bad for the Wilpons is good for Mets fans, right? That's just kind of how it works. There's like I don't see a scenario where the Wilpons skate by like the skin of their teeth again, yet and get to own the team, gut it, get to play the charade anymore where they're fucking doing stuff behind the scenes and just trying to put a fake contender out there, a fake baseball team. At sooner or later, they're going to have to sell. Their hands are going to be forced, which, by the way, our boy A-Rod and J-Lo coming back in the picture with potentially, and Big Bobby Kraft. What do you think about Big Bobby Kraft being in the mix here potentially?
Sure. He's one of the best owners in all sports, man. He hired the right people and stayed the fuck out of the way and just collected championships. I would love Bob Kraft, that fucking that hand job loving old billionaire in his sneakers. Love him. He's the best. I have no problem with him personally. I just always hated who he owned. I would still always prefer and still do believe that if the team is up for sale, Stevie Cohen will swoop in. But if it's not, we've talked about A-Rod and J-Lo being kind of like, we'll take it because it's not the Wilpons. But honestly, it's not the most ideal. But if there's some sort of Bob Kraft connection, where's Bezos?
Yeah, where is Bezos?
Bezos, you want to come to Queens. You want all this real estate. You want your headquarters. Buy the Mets. Buy all of Flushing Meadows, all of Willets Point, and make it into the Amazon Mets. Fucking, I don't care. The Amazon Mets can win a championship for me, and he can own Queens for all I care. It's what else are you gonna do with $140 billion?
I actually saw the they said the J-Lo. I think the big thing that J-Lo and A-Rod were proposing was obviously, you get the Mets, you get Citi Field, but they want to develop that point around Willets Point, right? Where it was the chop shops and all that shit, which is now gone. And I think there was plans for, apartment buildings there. And they see that and they want to build up what every Mets fan has been asking for since fucking Shea was up, is you have restaurants and places kids can go and places old idiots like us can go have a few beers, hang out before the game, apartment buildings, all that stuff, basically like a Wrigleyville is how they describe it, which makes perfect sense considering the Yankees are in the Bronx. They can't do they can't do that there because it's all developed. But the Mets have like fucking clean slate that they're just not using. And if Bob Kraft sees, obviously they did that with Gillette, right? They built like the mall around it. It makes perfect sense. And if Bezos wants to come in, take all that and just make it fucking warehouses where they just ship boxes, listen, Jeffy, if you're listening, I know you're listening, actually. I know you're a big fan of the show, even though you may not be a Mets fan. You can fucking take over Corona Park, just fucking flatten that shit and just make that a giant warehouse too. And just have nothing but UPS trucks coming in and out, replace all you're right next to the airports too. It makes so much goddamn sense. It's driving me crazy right now. Save us, Jeff.
Come on, man. When you have that much money, what's a couple bill? It's like nothing. You know what I mean? By the way, I'm reading some more of this article here. The ratings agency said a combination of cash on hand and liquidity can keep the project, I think meaning like the fucking Mets, June 2021. We estimate cash and liquidity in the form of the debt service reserve can cover operations and maintenance and debt service obligation if the entire 2020 season is canceled. So I guess they do have enough to make it through 2020, but I can't imagine they have long-term health here. So,
and that's the thing, Kev. Let me give you a little secret. It's because the debtors or whoever is collecting, they want to know that there's going to be a season in 2021. I'll root for a fucking strike in 2021 if that's what it takes. Yeah, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm playing the long game here. I'm done playing the short game. Yeah. I'm done doing Jeffy Wilpon fucking Band-Aids. We need to fucking amputate or we need to fucking bandage this shit up with like a cast. There's no more half measures. We're going full measures. Council 2020, Council 2021. Whatever you need to do it and get the fucking Wilpons out of our lives. That's been the goal of this podcast since day fucking one here, right?
And now we have since we started, we got to believe we've had 4 major things that are they're going to fucking do it. They're going to sell. And somehow these weasels just keep skating by. And you know what I'm thinking about, Clem? I'm thinking about the kids. I'm thinking about the kids, the next generation, the youth. Because if we got to sacrifice this year, the next year, the next year, the next year, and the next year, I don't give a fuck. Whatever it takes. I don't care about the rest of America. Just get these guys the fuck out of here. Period. End of sentence. Whatever it takes, man.
Even if Major League Baseball is one of those sports by the time this is all over that you can only find on Hulu because there's no it's just dead as a fucking media entity. As long as the Mets win that one World Series, I'll buy the free month trial to watch the World Series, see my win, and be like, we did it, kids. We won a World Series, and then it's fucking over. I could be out of baseball. I don't give a shit. The NBA is going to be going through the summer from now on anyway. That'll fucking fill the void, which the Knicks are by no means going to be able to replace. They'll fill right into the Mets fucking spot. I used to call the Knicks the winter Mets. Just make them the summer Mets. Who gives a shit? They're just the Mets.
Yeah, man. It's there's one goal here and one goal only, and the rest, fuck off. So all bad things for the Wilpons still occurring. Yet, is it bad enough to get the job done? Remains to be seen. What else do we got here?
Did you see the minor leaguer who called them out?
Yes. Now, that 2 different ways. So what was that guy's name? I don't even remember. He's just the minor leaguer who called out the Mets. Put up that big Instagram post. That also reads a lot like sour grapes. You just got cut, you got released. But also he's saying things that we know to be true, saying that the league or that the team and the ownership will exploit you and use you and don't care about your health or your well-being. They would ship him back and forth from majors to minors and all over the place. He was complaining about Tebow being on the team while other guys are getting released and whatnot. I mean, all of these things are valid, and we know here. You know what? It's a lot like Porzingis and the Knicks. Remember, Porzingis was kind of being a cocksucker, and it was I don't really condone putting up cryptic Instagrams and talking shit on your way out the door. But when it's for Dolan and the Knicks, I'm going to take the player's side almost every time. And same thing here. I would have to imagine there's an element of sour grapes and, he's just pissed off that he's the one who got cut. but also when you're saying everything that we already either suspected to be true or knew to be true, I'm riding with this guy. So, I mean, no secrets here, by the way. It's not like he like revealed anything big. It's just like, yeah, man, we fucking know. We just need more guys like you to speak up and say it.
Yeah, and like this is the other thing too, and you nailed it all. Everyone's it's an axe to grind. Sounds like someone. It also sounds like someone who had their dream, taken from them, a second round pick that made a bunch of money, and like he's upset because he knows it was fucking done wrong. It reads, you could just put this story, just change the name, and it's in the Good Fundies article every single time. The mismanagement of travel, the mismanagement of injuries, all that kind of shit. The fucking circus of a pet player being brought in, the Tim Tebow thing, and it's like. Tim Tebow's now become the point where it's like, guys, even like us who have, enjoyed it for the content, the blog, it's a fucking enough. In AAA, at some point, it's like, what are we doing right now? Like, it's just silly. And I'm sure, again, I haven't seen every other minor league and all these other, systems, and the Mets weren't the only team to cut minor leaguers. I haven't seen everyone else just pile on and rip their ownership apart. It's just, again, just the fucking Mets here. And it pans out. It plays out just the way we've said with the Wilpons from day one. So, shout out Andrew Church for he read the blog. He tweeted me. He's fucking challenging commenters to Rough and Rowdy. He said, I see this guy called. Yeah, he went in the comments. Some guy said, sounds like someone who like doesn't want to put their money where their mouth is. He goes, up on my mouth is Rough and Rowdy, motherfucker. So I said, let's fucking go. We got another Mets minor leaguer said he'll coach him up. He'll be his manager. So
all right, I didn't know all that. So now it's not sour grapes. It's not an axe to grind. This dude is 100% the real deal, the truth. I fucking love him. He could play for my team any day. Fuck the Wilpons. God damn it. It's so fucking embarrassing. What do you got?
When I saw that, the Rajai Davis Uber story is infinitely more fucked up now. That he had to pay for the Uber and get to the field before the day of the game. It's like, if that's happening with a guy who was an actual major leaguer, I can only imagine what that guy had to go through regularly for AAA.
Yeah, man. I mean, those guys are even when you were the good organization, those guys get treated like shit because it's just like the life of a minor leaguer. Imagine treated like shit by other pieces of shit. Those dudes probably didn't eat. They probably like starved them and shit. It was probably like prisoners, Can
you imagine what Rajai Davis thinks too, as someone who's like, he's been in the league, right? It's like he's made it to the show. He's seen what other franchises are like. And then he comes to this goddamn jalopy franchise. He's like, what the fuck are these guys doing? I'm paying for my own Uber. I mean, even Barstool, like right before, like Dave even like did the right thing when he could. It's like when there's no money, there's no money. But Dave would always, I imagine, cover everything, it would take maybe a little while because he needed the checks to clear, but he fucking paid the fucking piper when it was all said and done.
Yeah. I mean, when like broke ass Barstool knows how to treat their people better than your bajillion-dollar professional sports team, there's a fucking problem. So add it to the list, add it to the Good Fundies article. I mean, there's gonna be a fucking manifesto when that's all said and done with like pages and pages and pages of examples from Good Fundies on how much these guys absolutely fucking suck.
And I said it a few years ago too. When this happens, when they sell, and I know there's going to be all the media people who are going to come out and say, oh, I knew the Wilpons were no good. And I go back in your fucking tweets and your articles and you're sucking their dick. Fuck you too for not speaking out. Our guy Mark Herrig, he's been talking shit on them for years now. That guy is on the right side of history. There's plenty of reporters who are on the right side of history.
Silence. If you're silent, you're complicit. You're part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. Speak out. Speak your mind. Speak what's true and right. It's crazy that like I don't even think there's anybody left who defends them, but somehow it's still not enough to get them out of there. I don't know when I interviewed Faye Vincent on CCK, he was such a good interview and he kept expanding upon these questions that I asked him one last question and he went on for like 5 minutes and we ran through to the end of the show. And my last question was going to be, how the fuck are the Wilpons doing this? Like, how can they get away with it? And I just didn't have enough time because I would have loved to hear that guy's answer. He was very well spoken. If you haven't heard that, probably easiest way is just search it on the blog. If you search Faye Vincent, I put up a video with his audio, which was a great baseball interview. He said more in 30 minutes than I've heard in 3 months talking about labor disputes and why this is happening. And I thought it was wildly interesting. He was saying how Michael Weiner was the head of the players union and he just suddenly died in 2013 at the age of 51. and he was like brilliant and was making all these strides to get players part ownership in MLB.com, part ownership in anything on the internet, anything with the regional TV networks. And he flat out said he doesn't think Tony Clark is like sophisticated enough to pull this off. So things that you don't even realize are like going on, like as if this shit isn't complicated enough. All of a sudden, the players union rep dies in the middle of like out of nowhere, and everything gets thrown, like a wrench gets thrown into everything. And he was saying how the collusion case in 1990 still is like a problem, which is nuts. It's like you're talking about a 30-year-old thing, but these owners are still there, the families are still involved, and everybody still harbors ill will, which is why it's not just like your average labor negotiation that's going to be like, all right, you guys played hardball, we played hardball, let's meet in the middle. These motherfuckers are playing chicken, and they will bash right into each other. They don't give a shit. They don't give a fuck about us. They don't give a fuck about anything other than their money, and both sides. So don't hold your breath is what I would say as far as this season goes.
I'll try to be optimistic, Clem, but I'm with you. Like at this point, until it's here, like I'm not going to believe it.
That's the thing. Is like don't get your hopes up. If it happens, it happens. Great. We can all just say, I was wrong and who cares. But getting excited, you're only going to hurt yourself. You're only going to get hurt. Mets have opened up Port St. Lucie. Nobody showed up because Port St. Lucie fucking sucks. And also they all probably know there's not going to be any baseball. But the Lou is back. Have you ever been down there?
I was down there pretty young as a kid. And I mean, it just seemed like whatever. But yeah.
I mean, I went down in the 05 season, I think it was, to cover them in spring training. That was the infamous when Mike
Piazza thing
on my throat. You know what my dad reminded me of yesterday? I don't know if I've ever told the rest of this story. So I went down to spring training, and I was working for my college radio station, which is big for professional sports. I went down there, and I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything.
I think it's the mic.
How about now?
I think it's just, I hear you now.
Okay. So I went down there and I didn't know like some of the unspoken rules and the etiquette. And I started talking to Mike Piazza, and I asked him, Willie Randolph was new that year. I said, can you compare and contrast Art Howe and Willie Randolph? And he just did not like that question. He's like, how am I supposed to answer that? What kind of question is that? I was like, I don't know. Like, I think it's kind of valid, but okay, never mind. And I forgot, this is a follow-up to it. He like shits down my throat, and I was like deer in headlights, and I was kind of standing there in the locker room, like holding my little recorder and mic, kind of like, well, what now? And the new guy, Jose Reyes, was there, and he was like sitting alone too, and he was like looking at me and looking around. He was like, "Come on, you want to talk? Like, do you want to interview me?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, "Oh, okay, what's up, dude?" And like he's barely speaking English, and he's the new kid, and I'm the new kid, and it was like, whew. If it wasn't for that, I probably just would have ran home and quit. I would have just been like, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't know what to do. So Jose Reyes saved me on that one. Too bad he ended up being a wife beater and an asshole. But whatever. In that moment, he was nice. So
I was going to say, it's a fucked up thing when Mike Piazza's the villain, Jose Reyes is the good guy now, but that's how it worked. However, I got to shout out my guy Piazza, just because without that, you may not become a Barstool person, and without you be going to Barstool, because I think it kind of soured you on the traditional media path, right? And without that happening, I probably don't start. You obviously you, Dave, Big, all the big guys who started, K Marco, you guys all got me in, but I think your New York sports got me into the sports side of things as a Mets fan. So thank God for you, who then got me a job here. So shout out Mike Piazza for being a prick back in 2005, baby.
Well,
making dreams happen.
Butterfly effect is certainly crazy. It was that, and it was a game I covered at Citi Field. The Mets hit a grand slam, I think in like the 8th inning against the Pirates, I want to say. And it was like insane. And I was the only person in the press box. I like stood up and cheered. And everyone looked at me like I had like 10 heads because it was unprofessional. And I was like, fuck this. This ain't for me. Mike Piazza wasn't even really being like a prick. He was just like, I don't know. I guess I asked a question that, kind of like it kind of implied that he had to bash Art Howe. And I was the new kid. He just fuck off. It wasn't like he was like a real dick. He was just like, you know what? Peace out. But yeah, man, who knows? Maybe none of this happens. Maybe, maybe none of this could occur. I got to get like the time stone, go back in time, what my life would have been if Mike Piazza didn't sour me on traditional media.
While you're there, do a couple other things too, like fucking create a fucking vaccine for coronavirus 19 years before it's even there. Let's just fucking do everything.
That's what I would do right now. I would hop in the time machine, and I would like. Could you imagine right now if you were just like, oh, I got the cure? It'd be great. Be the fucking hero of all heroes. All right, so I think we kind of ran through all the topics here. Are your Dinos still like 21-2?
Yeah, they lost. They had like a 2-game skid, and then I saw this morning it was like 11-0 before I woke up, and I'm like, so good to be a Dinos fan. At this point, I can't even like enjoy it though, because like it used to be you wake up in the morning, you get your Korean baseball, and it's now it's like the Dinos highlights in between just like horrific videos and just shit that you wouldn't wish upon your worst enemy. So it's like, I'm not even Korean baseball's not even doing it for me anymore, man. It's just a fucking whole bunch of blah right now, man.
Yeah, when people used to say like, what do people who don't like sports, what do they do?
Yeah.
Like what have they been doing? They've been dealing with like horrendous issues for the past like 30 years. And we've just been like, well, my baseball owners are mean. It's like, well, they've just been dealing with the shit that we've all should have been dealing with this whole time.
You know what it is? Not being a sports fan, all it means is you took the red pill in the Matrix and you see what real life really is. And all of us are just in the fucking fantasy world, plugged in, eating filet mignon, having fun, laughing. And it's like, no, man, this shit sucks. And they actually see what really is going on in the world. So
I've been saying how, like, as I got older, my sports obsession has kind of dwindled. Like, not my fandom, but like, overly obsessive with it. And I'm wondering now if it'll I wonder when it comes back, if I'll have like a renewed sense of obsession or if it'll just kind of continue on. Part of me definitely wants to be like, let's just get back to, talking about lighthearted shit. But also part of me feels like we all kind of took the red pill. And I don't know if you can get back. You know what I mean? Once you have that, I don't know if it's like, will I be that upset about the Mets blowing a game with the bullpen? Probably, but I don't know. We got to find out. Life's going to be different after all this shit. So, and also doesn't matter because we'll have to wait for another year till baseball's back. Let's go to the bracket.
Speaking of misery,
our Mets misery bracket is brought to you by Coors Light. In order to survive these times, you need your Coors Light. Whether it's the literal bad stuff going on in the world or nonsense like your favorite sports team isn't getting the job done or you miss your favorite league, whatever it may be, Coors Light is there to take the edge off, have a good time. You wrap up your day at work, you crack a beer, you unwind a little bit, you share some stories with your pal, and you gotta wait until the mountains are blue. Blue Mountains only around here. It's the only way to kick back, relax, and enjoy yourself. I don't know what's going to happen with I guess we'll just have to move all of our Barstool at the ballparks till next year. But when that gets cooking, Coors Light will be there. When you're watching at home alone, Coors Light's there. When you're with your boys over the computer, when you're back at the bar, for all the places that have opened back up, Coors Light, the only way, and the official beer of We Gotta Believe and Mets baseball. So let's get into this Mets bracket and see what we got. Where we leave off?
We are on.
Oh boy! Oh boy, Luis Castillo, you motherfucker! God, it's that play is so annoying. Not because of Luis Castillo, because of Mark fucking Teixeira running the bases hard. What kind of asshole runs the bases that hard on a routine pop-up? What a dickhead. And also Luis Castillo popping up and throwing the ball to second. Like, no awareness, no fucking – and from a guy who used to be slick with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he was nasty with the glove. He was like your prototypical, light-hitting, defensive, speedy guy, and he just fucks the pooch on one of the easiest plays in baseball history.
I'd like to say a prayer for all the Mets fans that were at that stadium, because if you've ever been to a Subway Series game, home or away, but It's craziness. It's like a civil war in the crowd. Everyone's talking shit. The cheers aren't even cheering for your team. It's more to cheer in the guy next to you's face kind of a thing. It's like the people at the bar who clap, and they're clapping just so the other person that they don't like can hear it wearing the enemy colors.
Yep.
I feel terrible for them. I think we both said that we didn't see this happen. I happened to be in Chicago for a baseball trip. Thank God I didn't see, and I was with, I think, 4 Yankees fans, and a couple of them are loud Yankees fans too. So I would have.
I was with my college girlfriend at the time, and we were supposed to go to dinner, and I was kind of like, hang on, we got to let me just see the end of the game. I think we had a reservation or something, because I think it was like an afternoon game that ran into like the early evening. Whatever it was, I was like in the doghouse, and I was trying to get as many outs as I could and push her off. And then eventually I'm like, all right, 2 outs. Like, let me hedge my bets here. I'll keep her somewhat happy. I don't have to see the final out. Let's go. And we went to a place that didn't have TVs. It wasn't like a sports bar or restaurant. It was like no TVs. And my phone started blowing up after that. Like I was like, what could have possibly happened? And it was a couple Yankee fans, friends of mine, that were doing it. And I was like, oh no, I know what the fuck this means. But never in my I just figured, they got a hit. They hit home run like normal.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be a catastrophically embarrassing play that goes down in the history books. Castillo dropped the ball. Oh, motherfucker. God, that was so against anybody, that'd be terrible. Against the Yankees, to share
A-Rod hits it too. A-Rod hits it up. The fact they get out, it was like it wasn't like they dove and missed it. It was such like it wasn't the other thing about it though. History has not been kind to Luis. I will say this: it wasn't a can of corn. I feel like it was windy or something, because you could tell he's a little off. But it's still, you got to make that play 1,000 times out of 1,000.
Yeah, I think what he
was like
he was like backpedaling rather than like run to the spot, get there, camp out. I think it was kind of drifting. But I mean, I remember A-Rod. Doesn't A-Rod like spike his bat down? Is he like,
yeah,
fuck, like I just made the final out. I'm the loser again. I'm never clutch. And then all of a sudden, right off the heel. Oh God, it was terrible. Terrible.
We've talked about butterfly effect moments a lot in the show, and I feel like that moment ends Luis Castillo as a man.
Oh, yeah.
Like everything that happens with him afterwards, all the shitty batting. I think that was before he slips on the dugout on his glove, which is like that'll be in the next year's misery bracket moment. There's so many moments that like go back to that drop ball, and
I don't remember anything good about him anymore. Like, was he good for us ever? I don't know. He could have been, but I don't like. Once that happened, it sealed his fate as like asshole Met that nobody likes.
Yeah, he was Papa Clem's guy for Papa Clem, he takes his guys and he rides them till the end, and Luis Castillo was his guy to the last day. And I'm like, Dad, you have to realize you were on an island by yourself. Every other Mets fan despises him. It was Delgado, Sean Green to fucking Luis Castillo, and it was a bad look.
Do you remember that year that Luis Castillo had like 4 RBI when he was batting like 350? And it was just like the craziest anomaly that he was just like like nobody was ever on base when he was batting. It was crazy. He had in 2003 with the Marlins, he was batting 314. He had 39 RBI total for the whole season, like with 676 plate appearances, batted over 300, hit 6 home runs. Almost 20 doubles, almost 200 hits, 39 RBIs. It was crazy, man.
That's hard to do. So that means he drove in 33 other players, including whoever else was on base for those home runs. That's one of those things that's like truly hard to do. Like batting 314.
Hang on. This is the year. Sorry. In the year 2000, Luis Castillo batted 334. He had 17 RBIs.
Oh my God. 17 RBIs, 100 runs. So
yeah.
2 home runs. So that's two of his 17 RBIs come at least himself. So it's 15 RBIs, runs batted in, we have to get. 62 steals. That's fucking great. And he played 136 games, 626 plate appearances. So plenty of at-bats, 539 at-bats, 17 ribeyes.
Like it's borderline impossible to do that, but that's Luis Castillo for you, that motherfucker. So we got that versus Beltran's secret knee surgery. Now, Beltran, I mean, I will go to bat for Beltran. With my dying breath, I will defend this guy. He is probably our best position player ever until Pete Alonso decides to change that. He's definitely our best free agent signing ever. He was a defensive wizard at a premium position while batting in the middle of your lineup. Up until Pete, he had the most home runs ever for a Met in the season. He struck out looking, but he also single-handedly won us playoff games. He was clutch. He was good all around. He was fast in the beginning. Defend him to the death. That being said, the oblique injuries and the day-to-day this and re-aggravating that, and then this what year was this secret surgery? I only vaguely remember.
I don't even remember what secret knee surgery.
Let me see. Because this was more of a Mets in comp. It was 2010, right?
2010.
2010 was this was, I remember, one of the first times where the player was like, fuck you guys, I'm getting surgery. And the team was like, well, we don't approve of this. And now we know that you always side with the player. I think at the time it was kind of well, what's going on here? And why isn't everyone on the same page? And now it's because you know that the Mets are fucking assholes. And you got to do what you got to do for yourself and look out for number one and do what, you think you and your doctors are all whatever's best for you, because the Mets, down to making Pedro pitch in September for that meaningless fucking game. The Mets will try you out there if you're on your deathbed, if it means they could sell 5 more tickets on the walk-up. So always side with the player, but it was just a total clusterfuck, especially so he was hurt in 2009 and missed the time. And that was 2009 was one of those deep, dark seasons.
Ooh,
that was an ugly one. And then microfracture surgery. I remember at that point thinking about, Amari Stoudemire, and you hear microfracture, it's you might as well chop your whole fucking leg off. So just a clusterfuck all the way around.
Yeah, and that was at the end. That was, this is tail end of Beltran with the Mets. I think the next year is when they traded him in 2011, and he was batting. He got better in 2011, and we all remember kind of what he was. He went to the Giants. He was pretty good with them. He wasn't he did. I thought we were going to get postseason Beltran, and he was going to be on our TVs every night in October. Motherfucker, this guy's just haunting us. We got Wheeler back for him, obviously. But the Carlos
Beltran felt like a heist, and it never really panned out. But that was a great trade.
Yep. And between the free agent signing, strike 3 in 2006, the injury shit, all the other weird stuff with him and the fans in the front office that, had all the beef, down to, even forget about just the managerial stuff, which is its own fucking fairy tale in itself. But the fact that he's the guy who, with the Johan no-hitter and the hit, no-hit, all that stuff, Carlos Beltran is the Forrest Gump of the New York Mets.
Yeah,
he comes in and out, and he's in the middle of all these historic things. The 2000 Mets, Carlos Beltran is our Forrest Gump. It's unbelievable when you just add in all the shit, even when he's not on the team. And the fact, I feel like Zach Wheeler, if he went to any other or was traded for any other player, he would have either been very good or very bad. But he comes in the Beltran deal, and he has one of these strange, weird Met careers where I don't even know how I feel about Zach Wheeler when I think about him. You know what I mean? He just was here, and I don't know what he'll do with the Phillies, but it's just one of those weird things.
Wheeler was, he throws fucking hard, and he was that guy who was supposed to put it all together eventually. And we're just seeing more and more guys who just don't really put it all together. It's fucking put it together. By the way, I'm looking at so in 2011. He played for the Giants and the Cardinals, right?
Giants and the Mets.
Right. And then in 2012 he was with the Cardinals.
The Cardinals, yeah.
But I'm just looking as soon as he was with the Giants, played well, batted 300, and it's just it feels sometimes you just get away from the bad organization and you go to a place like San Francisco, and then you go to a place like St. Louis, which is rock solid, and then the Yankees. And he was still contributing well past what we thought was his prime, because you just cut out all the other bullshit. You know what I mean?
He immediately got MVP votes when he goes to the Cardinals. That first year, he's 26 in MVP. So it's he's back up to he's no longer dead. And again, we've said this how many times? You leave the Mets, you instantly have a fucking 30% upgrade in your fucking abilities, because you're no longer dealing with all the bullshit around this organization. So.
Right.
I think you got to go Castillo here. All things being said,
I mean, the Beltran story is one of, it's like success, it's tragic, whatever. But the Luis Castillo pop up is infamous for all time. So Louis,
it's not even the worst Beltran thing on the bracket.
Yeah,
let's go.
Walk in the park. 7-10 matchup. We got Generation K versus Tony Bernazard fighting a minor leaguer. I mean, I remember Generation K barely. What was it? Isringhausen, Pulsifer, Paul Wilson. Those three. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm more partial to the quote unquote 5 aces and like this Generation K, because aside from Jake, nobody really panned out. But I don't know. Like I wasn't old enough to know just how good those guys were really supposed to be. I'd imagine if you got a nickname and if you're on the cover of magazines, they were really, really highly touted. So, and I mean, Isringhausen went on to do his thing as a closer. The other two kind of just like nothing at all. I feel like that probably had to be tragic for like, the 90s Mets fans. But I didn't live through that like myself. The Tony Bernazard thing, ripping his shirt off and trying to fight a minor leaguer. Tony Bernazard was like, he's almost like the Saul Katz of the front office. Saul Katz is in the shadows, like lurking. Tony Bernazard felt like he had like he was almost the puppet master or something. Like it wasn't Minaya, it was Bernazard who was making the decisions. Like, who is this fucking guy? Why is he taking his shirt off? Why is he fighting these kids? It was for sure an LOL Mets black eye though, no doubt, no pun intended.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I don't even remember it, but I guarantee I just put my head in my hands when I saw like that headline. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? And we've all felt that if you're a Mets fan, you felt that feeling way too much. Generation K is like it's the thing that got away. I'm a little older than you, but even I don't remember. Like, I remember there being hype and stuff like that, but I'm sure if like Fangraphs and all these other sabermetrics things were around, I'm sure like at least 1 or 2 of the pitchers would have had like holes blown in there. Like, these guys are going to be, this guy gives up too many walks. I'm sure Mets fans, like, again, Frank the Tank could probably speak on it more than either of us could. But again, I just lived through a full fucking rotation of guys who basically none of them panned out to where we thought they were going to. So
remember the good old days of saying oodles? Oh
God,
oodles and oodles of pitching, and just none of it fucking worked out.
I have to say this about Tony Bernazard. The Bernazard thing, my favorite thing about him is I always say his name in my head like Omar Minaya. He goes, Tony Bernazard, and like his like nasally voice. It's the only thing that keeps me going. Is he's like,
you know what else is sprinkled in there? I don't know if this is anywhere else on the bracket, but Adam Rubin was like in this mix with these guys, right? Wasn't he the one who was like asking the questions regarding this situation that pissed off Minaya, and like that went from just an in-house issue with the minor leaguers and players and Bernazard to the media. It was a whole clusterfuck. I would have to imagine, though, that was embarrassing, but I'd have to imagine Generation K set the Mets back like 5 years. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That was probably like, all right, we're going to be good. Oh, no, wait, we're actually fucking awful. So as much as I don't know all the details of Generation K, just being logical about it, having like a minor leaguer fight with like a advisor is embarrassing, but I think I'm giving the edge to Generation K here.
Much more misery, pound for pound, with with 3 potential, aces or whatever they were calling them, just going down. And Isringhausen getting success as a closer didn't really hurt as much as it should. The fact that neither other guy really panned out, but again, like pitching, I think we all said this even when all the guys were coming up, like Harvey, Syndergaard. It's like pitching is like, it's based on like injury. It's like you're just waiting for the guy's arm to fall off. So the fact that none of these guys panned out, or 1 of 3 panned out, isn't shocking, but it still had to just gut you thinking, this is when the Mets are finally going to put it together. Not so fast, my friend.
You know what, too, though? It's like, look again, a lot of success for Jason Isringhausen with the Cardinals. So,
yep.
it's not always the player. It's the organization which they're trying to do it for. So, Generation K moves on. We'll do the last showdown in the West bracket before we wrap up today. I mean, you knew it was coming. You knew we had to talk about it. You knew eventually we were going to find it. The Bobby Bonilla contract. And the 15 seed while it is going to get steamrolled here by Bobby Bo, it is a great moment. Bunny Agbayani forgetting that there was forgetting how many outs there were, giving it to a fan for the second out, taking it back and still trying to play. So fucking stupid, but the Hawaiian Punch, Benny Agbayani, is one of my favorite players ever. So, that guy, he had that walk-off, I think, in the playoffs, right? Didn't he hit a walk-off bomb?
It was just the Giants or something like that.
So, I mean, you know what? Embarrassing, silly moment for sure. Was not the first guy to forget the number of outs, not the last guy. I'll give him a pass. The Bobby Bo contract. I always try to think of things like kissingsusiecolbert.com. If I were to be starting a sports blog now, what would I call it? I think I would call it Bobby Bonilla's contract.com. It's forever intertwined with LOL Mets. It's a part of Mets folklore. The ultimate irony is that it made sense, financially, economically. If you understand anything about net present value and the time value of money, it makes sense. They got a lump sum at the time. They were going to pay it out over the course of time, with installments at this rate of return. It actually all ends up making sense. But there's two things you forget. One, that assumes that what you do with that lump sum of money when you don't have to pay Bobby Bonilla is something smart and correct, and you're utilizing that money in a way that it makes sense. The Mets just flush it down the fucking toilet in a Ponzi scheme. So no, it actually doesn't make sense the way they did it to pay out for the next 30 fucking years $1 million a year. And two, it's just about there was a couple years where I would rally against people and try to explain why it's not a bad deal. It's just stupid. It's just one of these. I know other players have deferred contracts. I know it made sense. I know we're not talking about a sum of money that breaks the franchise, but it just sounds so fucking stupid when you're paying a guy until 2032 when he stopped playing for you in 1999. It's just absolutely a PR disaster, and we're going to be doing it for several years to come, Clem.
I'm actually kind of happy that our boy Benny gets such a mammoth opponent, because I don't want to have Benny going to the second round in this. He doesn't deserve it. Hawaii 5-0 entrance music or batting music, all that stuff. I think that's if you didn't love Benny Agbayani when he was a Met, you're just a piece of shit. That's the easiest way to get the temperature of someone.
You know what I could see? Looking back on it, I love him. I could definitely see if he was playing on my team now and we were a contender, and I'd be listen, I love this guy. He's a fan favorite, but go get me a real fucking outfield. Go get me a real bat. Go, when you got Benny Agbayani and Timo Perez and fucking, the Jay Paytons of the world. How did that team even make the World Series as it is? If they actually had some good players, they would have fucking rolled on the Yankees. Instead, we're just plugging in guys from Hawaii. I mean, come on.
Oh God, the thing about the Bobby Bo, everything you said. One, just the name Bobby Bonilla, it the Bob, the Ba, the double, whatever the fuck it's called, the alliteration of it all. Bobby Bonilla is just a fucking crazy. It's a hilarious name.
It's an all-time baseball name, but the problem is, and part of the problem with the appearance of the contract is that Bobby Bonilla is a cocksucker. He was the fucking worst. So, if we did this for David Wright, if every year you found out that David Wright got $1 million, you'd be good, make it 2. He deserves it. But the fact that Bobby Bo sucked and was such an asshole, it becomes a black eye.
And it wasn't even his first. It was his second go around with the Mets. He was on the worst team money could buy in '93. He was on this team. He was playing cards as the team was walking the fucking Braves to the fucking World Series. It's everything wrong. And then the fucking capper of it all is that every fucking day, Bobby Bonilla Day, that was part of the thing that helped launch Darren Rovell to the status he is now. If any other reporter was reporting it, a business reporter, a sport, if Buster Olney was the guy who was covering the Bobby Bonilla Day beat, you live with it. You say, good for you, Buster, doing your thing. But It's fucking that cocksucker Rovell, which makes it hurt even more.
Rovell packaged that tweet in every way you possibly could. How many pennies he's going to earn, how many nickels he's going to earn, how many pieces of bubble gum he could buy with this money. Every which way you could describe it, Rovell was there being an absolute dickhead So,
if you check every dollar Bobby Bonilla makes to the moon, it would go back and forth.
God.
7 times. Like, shut the fuck up.
What a total asshole. Who's the bigger asshole, Bobby Bonilla or Darren Rovell?
That's the question. I mean, that
I think it's got to be Rovell, because I think at the end of the day, Bobby Bonilla was an asshole, but he was kind of like, I'm just a ball player and I'm here to make money. Like, fuck you, which I can kind of understand. Rovell is just a goddamn weasel, you know?
The fact that Bobby Bonilla won that goddamn World Series in '97, so it's like, all right, well, we get him back. He wasn't even that fucking. Oh, God, it's just the worst. It's just 290. This is what he bad with the Marlins. 297, 17 bombs, 96 RBIs. 2 years later with us, he's a goddamn dog. It's pure Bobby Bonilla. It's everything. And he was in the Piazza deal, right? So like that whole thing. He has his fingerprints in that too, with Chef and everything else. So. I could live with paying Gary Sheffield $1 million a year. In fact, you know what, Steve Cohen, if you're listening, just pay Gary Sheffield $1 million a year for the next 30 years, because he was the fucking
just
man.
for giving us that batting stance. You deserve $1 million a year till you're dead, but not Bobby Bonilla. So clearly he'll move on there, and we'll look at a couple big. I mean how about Bonilla is He's going to be in the second round here with the card game and the contract. So what if Bobby Bonilla ends up facing himself in the Sweet 16?
I think Bobby Bonilla is going to have a nice run here no matter what happens.
Either way, Bobby Bo is probably making it like the Final Four. The fuck.
We have an entire Midwest to get to, which, I mean, based on the way the baseball season negotiations are going.
Plenty of time, brother. Plenty of time. Don't even worry about it, because there ain't going to be any real baseball to fucking talk about. So we'll keep going with the misery bracket. If you got any other like old school Mets topics or current playing topics you want us to get to, let us know, and we'll break it down next week on another edition of the podcast. Until then, gotta believe.
Gotta believe.